Hey everyone, finally there is a long-standing mystery in the Dragon Prince where we have actually gotten an answer to it. That's right, while there are quite a few long-standing mysteries that are slowly but surely getting unraveled, there is one where we have been given enough puzzle pieces to finally reveal the answers. And we have been theorizing over such for a long time now. In Season 6 Stars, there was an incredibly short scene where, through two separate frames, we are now able to piece together where the Key of Aaravos is actually being pulled towards. Not only that, but with all of the other surrounding information that we have gotten, it can give us quite a clear picture of aspects of Aaravos' story that we have missed so far, and even give us an insight into what lies ahead for Season 7 Dark. So not only are we going to dive into the location of where the cube is being pulled, but what this means overall. And no, it is not the Ocean Point. I think so that we are all on the same page, it's important to get some things out of the way first. For one, the Key of Aaravos is this cube that we have seen a lot throughout the show, and it's never really been clear what its purpose is, only that it is seemingly very important. Also, something I think that will become relevant is that the name Key of Aaravos could easily be a name that was given by another character and not the actual name of the artifact, but I digress. Leading up to Season 6, we were given posters showing the key with a book in Aaravos' possession. Just as we had guessed, the key part of the name refers to it opening this mysterious tome, and since each side has a different symbol for each of the primal sources, the respective sides are used to unlock different versions of this book. We get an example in Season 6 where Aaravos opens the book with the Earth Primal, and the book transforms. All of a sudden, it is full of different aspects that have been associated with the Earth Primal. What exactly this book does is unclear. From what we have gathered so far, and due to the importance put on the key for the book, it seems very likely that this book contains the secret to every single primal source. That through this, the reader could connect with every single arcanum and gain more knowledge about the different sources than otherwise possible. We see a younger version of Aaravos with this book in the posters, so I assume that this was him learning the different arcanums, as he is famously the only entity in existence to have learned all arcanums. This does beg the question though, did Aaravos create this book himself as a way to plot down all the different discoveries he made while exploring the different arcanums? Or was the book itself an already existent artifact that Aaravos found and kept? But that is unimportant for today. What is important is one last observation before we dive into the actual location. You see, the Key of Aaravos creates marks on the ground when dropped, and they all seem to lead to a singular point. We've technically seen this in the show itself in Season 1 and 2 already, and now super clearly in Season 6. Technically, we don't officially know what this means, but even Callum writes in his spell book that it is seemingly being pulled towards something in Xadia. The very original thought was that it was being pulled towards Aaravos' prison location, but we're past that now, so the only logical point it could be drawn to would in fact be the mysterious tome, and this is where everything falls into place. You see, all we need to do is find out where the key is being drawn to know where the book is. The book was clearly with Aaravos and a prized possession, so it would make sense he hid it or kept it close to his home. So if we find the book, we find Aaravos' home in Xadia. Once we do that, so many things about Aaravos' past in Xadia would start to fall in place, and more importantly, we would know the location of maybe the most powerful object in Xadia, except the shrinking mushrooms of course, because I just need the mushroom mage to have been important. Finally, in the scene in episode 2, Love, War and Mushrooms, we finally get an approximate location of where the cube is being drawn to. I will say straight away that yes, other people have already done this and they have their own conclusions. I will take you through my whole process, but I'll also explain why I think this would make more sense regardless, because as you will see, I have a bit of a different endpoint than most others. Okay, so let's take a look at the first picture we have, where we can see each of the different symbols that Callum has marked so far, and the lines we see drawn next to them are all direction lines in which the Key of Aaravos was being pulled at this mark. We have 5 locations, so with basic triangulation, we should get a very solid and definite singular result, right? Well, let's take a look at the map then. Here we have Callum's own map, where he put down where each of the symbols were marked. We have one near Catullus, but not at Catullus itself. This is actually towards the Banthor Lodge since he was there in Season 1, and it could also be the mountain where he learned the Sky Arcanum. But in the actual map, it is covered by the Catullus insignia. Then we have the triangle at Luxoria, where we have spent quite some time during Season 3 and afterwards. The rectangle is at the Storm Spire, where they have also spent quite a lot of time in Season 3 onwards. And the circle in the east is the Drakewood at Umbertor, where they spent time in Season 4. Finally, we have the cross where they are now. now in Durin on their way to the Frozen Sea. Alright, step 2 is to line up the 2 pages with their respective signs. That way we have a better idea of what it would look like on the map. I did my best to center the different symbols as well, but the map would look something like this then. Now, if we take a line, actually I'll take an arrow and line it up with the marked lines, we should have something that looks a little like this. We can already get a sense of the general area of where they are all pointing towards, but the final thing we have to do is make each line bigger and centered from the actual symbol, and when we do all of that, we have this image right here. Firstly, if you're wondering why I'm not transposing all of this onto the actual map of Xadia, there are 2 reasons. For one, we just don't have the fully accurate locations of the markings on the actual map, since we cannot easily transpose Callum's onto the official one. Secondly, there really is no need, since I don't think Callum precisely measured out exactly where he is anyway, and since he's using his own map, I think it makes more sense that we do that too, and then try to find that location on the official map. With this final version of the edited map, that is exactly what we will be trying to do now. As you can already see, this is clearly not the work of a mathematician, and we're really just working with what we have. But clearly all of them cross each other somewhere around this location. Now, if we take a look at the official map, we can use this river coming from the Sea of the Cast Out as a reference, and what do you know, the general location seems to be the mountains north of the ruins of Ilarion. This is actually really interesting. If you've watched my streams, you would know that I have always stood by the fact that it would be around Ilarion, but I always went for the more southern mountains. There is a good reason for this though, since in the flashback that we got with Aaravos at his home with Leola, we got to see a bit of the background where he lives. There seems to be big open spaces, but most importantly, there is a dip in the topography, which means that it would have to be somewhere close to a valley of some sort. I originally thought that this valley could be the river coming from the Sea of the Cast Out. Maybe it wasn't even a river at that point, since the sea was only created after the 100 years of crying. Maybe it then took the path of the valley until it reached the ocean. Either way, we also know that there were humans who played with Leola, since we see 2 separate ones in the flashback alone. Since Ilarion was a human city, it would only make sense that Aaravos therefore lived close to it. It also seems special to him, which we can read in poems, which would make even more sense now knowing that he lived right next to the city, and maybe even his daughter used to play with humans from there. Anyway, there are plenty of locations around Ilarion that fit the description, but the plains in the south seem to look more closely to what we see in the show. This could mean though that his home is in fact located to the south of Ilarion, but the book is still in the mountains to the north of Ilarion. Once again, we have to take these directions with a grain or 2 of salt anyway, but it would make sense for Aaravos to try to hide this book. He would understand better than anyone the immense power that it can unlock, and would try to keep this away from the wrong people. Already the fact that he has never sent any of his minions after it truly shows how this book is much too powerful for anyone but himself in Aaravos' eyes. It would therefore make sense that somewhere in these mountains he has a cave or something, maybe one that can only be accessed with certain magic, or better yet, multiple sources of magic, through which he would assume that he's the only one that could reach it, since no one else has had mastery over more than one arcanum. What if, for example, it starts with needing sky magic, followed by needing earth magic, and finally needing ocean magic to reach the actual book? Apart from the earth magic, Callum already has that covered, and assuming that this book will be the thing that they will try to go after in season 7, it might be a hint to Terry switching sides, assuming they need earth magic to reach this location, but that is getting way ahead of myself. In general though, I think that this book is what season 7 Dark will be building up towards. The Key of Aaravos was introduced so early on in the show, and since it is possible that the show could end after this season, we should be getting the conclusion to this build-up. How exactly that will pan out is a theory for another time, but the important part is that it needs to happen in a way that feels like natural progression to the story. It being where Aaravos lived and close to Ilarion would give a perfect excuse to finally shed light onto what happened there and why Aaravos cared so much about Ilarion. That is the main criticism I have on the idea that the key leads to the ocean point. I know the arrows could lead there as well, and on the official map there seems to be a star symbol there as well, but 2 things. One, the star symbol could also just as easily be just a symbol to mark the one spit of land to set it apart from the rest, since how else would they show an ocean point? The other is that we have technically already been there, and it was so insignificant that it would seem extremely weird for Aaravos to have kept the book there in the one spot where you can contact the archdragon of the ocean. Like, that just makes no sense story-wise, as well does that, it would only lead to more confusion. That is why I just hope that the cube does not lead to the ocean point, as not only would it feel weird to revisit this insignificant place, but also it seemingly would not make any sense from a storytelling perspective. But that brings us to the end. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this more thorough look at a theory, and yes, I could still be wrong. On Discord we have an image showing where I have predicted it will end up being, just to see if I will end up being wrong or not. And you're very welcome to join the Discord as well. Make sure to subscribe and like the video, as more theories, breakdowns, analysis, and news are all coming your way. You can now also become a member to support the channel financially, and there are benefits. But again, only do it if you can and want to, since everything will still be free. Come and join us live every Friday or Saturday at 7:45 CEST, and you can follow me on Twitter as well for Twitter things. Either way, you are incredible if you watched all the way. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.